Today, there are 6 people living and working on board an amazing spacecraft. Amazing not in just what it is, but how it was put together and how it came together from 16 different countries, 37 states in the United States, and how it was physically put together by human beings in a 5 psi suit in 143 spacewalks. The station was assembled and put together by human beings with hands, and 5 psi gloves was hard work. EVAs have not always been easy, but they sure look easy today. So today I want to talk a little bit about 3 things. A summary of what the ISS is about. I really think even those of us who work in the program and are close to the program really do not appreciate the amazing spacecraft that circles the Earth every 90 minutes. And secondly, a few lessons learned along the way. And last, if you don't show me that 5-minute thing too quickly, 4 pillars of success. The station today is outfitted and is capable of doing more science, I would think, in a single year than has been done in the last 50 years in human spaceflight. It has 100 racks inside the station to either provide control and operations of the station or provide scientific capability, from furnaces to observation facilities, many different kinds of activities. So it's in a position to be used in a very positive way over the next 10 or 15 years, depending upon what the country decides to do. Some lessons along the way is, number one, I think learning while you're in a low-risk situation is extremely important. Gemini was a learning phase for Apollo in terms of many events like spacewalks, how the operations guys work with the crew, and many others. Shuttle Mir was a learning experience for getting ready to do station. Our world by that time had become driven by shuttle missions 15 days, 10 to 15 days, very oriented to being hurry up and get it done, get 100% or 110%, and so on and so forth. It was indeed a sprint to get the most you can out of this short flight. A station flight is not like that. It's a marathon. You need to pace yourself. You need to operate differently. You need to have a different operating strategy of hold the fort, get the answer, then fix it, rather than have immediate solutions. A completely different strategy. When you go to Mars, and you will someday go to Mars, it may be later than sooner, but you will go to Mars, they need another operating strategy. When the crew is 30 minutes away in terms of talking to them, you have to think about doing things differently than you have in the past. Also, besides learning as we go, we also learned a great deal about how to work with the international partners, and in this case, working with the Russians. I was in the formulation phase for getting ready to do the Shuttle Mir program and led that activity that later became the director of the Shuttle Mir program, and had opportunity to work with the Russians a great deal. 29 trips later to Moscow, I've decided I don't want to go back again simply because I don't like to travel. But one of the things we learned is how important, and of course you all know this, how important understanding the culture of our partners and indeed of the various disciplines within NASA is very important, the culture. The Russian culture, quite frankly, drove me crazy. And by the way, there's no correct culture in this world. It's just different cultures. the Russian culture is perfectly okay. I'm sure our culture drove them crazy too. So it's not who is right, it's understanding their culture and appreciating it rather than worrying about it all the time. I'd like to talk about 4 pillars that made all of this, that contributed to all of this. 4 things that I think are important when we endeavor on something this complex. 4 pillars that I think makes that possible is: number 1, have the right attitude. Number 2, technical excellence. Number 3, character and integrity. And number 4, remember you're not as smart as you think you are. Any of you watched You're Not as Smart as a 5th grader? Anyway, when I was a young fellow, I thought the technical excellence part 1 was number 1. The technical gurus of the community were the people who made the world go round. As I have grown older and hopefully wiser, I have really come to appreciate that having the right attitude is the number 1 thing. When you have people with the right attitude, you really can do marvelous things. The second thing is technical excellence, which is really the foundation of what we did. Will Rogers said that we learn by books, we learn by observing others, and some people just have to pee on an electric fence. But learning is, technical excellence is more than graduating from college with a degree, a master's degree or a PhD, and have all of the book knowledge you can. And technical excellence is a lifetime pursuit that goes on every day of your career in terms of learning. A continual process of learning those things that that you need to know. You need to have a curious mind of why is that true? Why is it that way? And I could tell you stories about that, but he's going to put up the 5-minute sign here in a minute. You never graduate in this business of technical excellence. In fact, I would suggest to you, if you ever think you have arrived in the world of technical excellence, it's time for you to change your discipline and go do something different. A couple of stories. Neil Armstrong, you all know about Neil Armstrong, but some of the things you might not know about Neil is, of course, he was a fighter pilot. He flew the X-15. He also was a commander on Gemini 8. A flight, Wayne, by the way, I was an activities officer on that flight. Rendezvoused and docked with a Gemini rocket, a Gina rocket. And shortly after the docking, a thruster on what amounts to the service module of the Gemini spacecraft stuck on. The vehicle started spinning up, and the crew thought it was this Agena that they had just docked with was a problem. They undocked and it spun up faster. Eventually, Armstrong armed the re-entry attitude control system, which was a reaction control system on the nose of the Gemini, and used it to damp the rates. In the meantime, they had managed to turn off the thrusters in the service module, which is an independent third sim. Make a long story short, the Gemini spacecraft was rotating when they saw damping all started at 270 degrees a second. Neil Armstrong damped those rates, used 2/3 of the entry propellant to do that. Dave Scott told me after the mission, he said, if I'd have been in the left seat, we'd still be rotating. Neil was ready for the day when he needed to save the day. He had paid the price along the way with all the activities that had led up to that event. And in our careers, the same thing happens. We're in a continual process of being prepared for the day when we will be called upon to do our thing, so to speak, and to save the day, or to contribute to saving the day. So always pursue technical excellence. The third thing is character and integrity. Why is that important? First of all, when you as a leader or participant in a system have character and integrity, people will listen and follow and be a better team member because they appreciate and they know you are doing what you believe is the right thing rather than what might be some subtle motivation because the boss wants it or so on and so forth. Character is what you are when you take off all the masks that you wear. Stop pretending, and it's what you really are as a human being. Integrity is consistency between how you behave when you're being watched and when you're not being watched. It's consistency in how you behave as a human being. This is all based on bedrock principles rather than emotions. It's the bedrock principle that are the guiding lights of your behavior as a human being. It's the thing that enables you to always be consistent in how you behave. The last principle is you're not as smart as you think you are. You need to stay focused. You know, success as people, technical people and managers, success breeds a thing called I know and I understand and I can make decisions based on my background, my guts, so to speak, and my understanding of the problem. When we get to that point, we have passed the point of being where we ought to be. We need to insist that we have the data. We need to insist that the experience that we're operating on is applicable to the problem that we're solving today. Critical decisions require discipline and thoroughness, no matter what the background and experience is that we have behind us. The technical wing of the human spaceflight program has where the sustaining engineering people come together, provide technical support to the shuttle flight operations team, has a slogan. It says, "In God we trust, all others bring data." That's a good slogan for you as technical managers and as managers of projects and programs to remember. Make sure that the decisions you're making from the gut, if you will, that the data that you're using is really applicable. In all other cases, particularly in critical and decisions, that you have the data to make the decision.